Well, take a few minutes here and watch this next story with us. He led some of the largest evangelical Lutheran congregations in the country, ministering to thousands of Twin Cities parishioners every week.
And then unexpectedly, Pastor John Hogenson was silenced. He literally lost his ability to speak, but he knew he had a lot more to say and was determined to find his voice.
Well, we were looking at houses and drove up and loved the neighborhood.
2 years ago, Ruth and John Hogenson took a chance on this home because it just felt right.
John opened the doors to this room and he just stopped and he looked around and he sat in one of the chairs and he just said, "This would be my peaceful room."
They had no idea John's feeling that day would pave the way for the difficult months ahead.
His hospital bed was set up in the corner and all kinds of equipment and things like that.
In 2015, John, a well-known evangelical Lutheran pastor, was thriving in his ministry at Mount Olivet Church in Edina when out of nowhere he started experiencing headaches and slurred speech.
Can you saw boards? Yep, just like that.
He said, "I think whatever it is going to move fast." And you know, that's the day the world changed.
John was diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor. Doctors gave him only a few months to live. His family brought him here, home, to live out the rest of his life in his peaceful place.
We just watched things get really hard for him. A man who had spent his life talking and giving back to the world that way. Couldn't talk, couldn't eat, couldn't move except for his right thumb.
Not willing to accept limitations, John was motivated by what little he had left, and he put it to work.
And I just said, "Okay, what are we doing here?" And he looked at me, unable to speak. I said, "Are we living or dying?" And he was just like, "Living."
With the help of family and friends, John shared his journey on a Caring Bridge page. Within weeks, nearly 300,000 people were tuning in each Sunday night for one of John's special sermons.
He was able to give that same emotion and that same affirmation of his belief and trust and hope and faith in God. He was able to do that in a different way, but it was just as powerful.
Give him a voice when he literally had no voice.
With only brief mentions of his illness.
"I'm not scared to die, but I am so sad about what I will miss."
John focused instead on lifting others up.
That guy continued to have a story of hope and love and grace for others. I mean, it's like, wow.
Often using his signature sense of humor.
And because I am me, and I still have so many people I want to see, and things that I want to do, I've overbooked my death. Talk about poor time management.
His big joke was that he's on the fast track to dying, but he's procrastinating.
John was now living well beyond the time doctors had given him, and he made the most of that time. He breathed new life into his ministry online. And then, against all odds, his speaking voice came back.
God can use you just the way you are.
John's friends seized the opportunity and began documenting his journey.
That's the way he lives his life. He is so interested in people. He sees people as individuals, treats them that way. He meets people where they're at, not where he'd like them to be.
Every milestone.
Look upwards, not downwards. Press on. Don't give up.
Every step of the way.
Sorry, I'm a big baby. When the end of my life comes, I want to be able to look back and say I did everything I possibly could to live life as fully as I could. I'm much more interested in the life process than I am in the dying process.
Weeks later, the life process would gently give way to the dying process. John knew it was his time to go home. It just felt right.
And when he declared he was ready for hospice, none of us argued. We knew that his body was making that declaration and that we were so lucky to have had that time.
He was already at peace and he felt he was good. He said, "I'm sad about dying, but I'm not scared."
And in his final hours, he gave one final sermon.
He was still aware that morning, and I played it for him, and he got tears in his eyes, and we talked about it. You know, I wanted him to hear it, and I think it meant a lot to him that that message would get out there about growing in faith and making a difference.
Now, 20 months after cancer tried to silence him,
there's a lot of love in this room.
Pastor John Hogenson has the last word, a legacy of faith and hope, and a life lived to the fullest.
John always said life is about finishing well. For us, we don't know if it's tomorrow or if it's when we're 80. And John certainly didn't know it was going to be at 58. But he always lived well, and he absolutely finished well.
An incredible man, an incredible family and support system around him. And even in his final days, he gave his wife, Ruth, some Caring Bridge entries that he had finished but had not yet been published, and gave her a schedule of when to publish them. And so there's one left that's going to be coming out soon. And he had started a book, so he has a lot to say, and I hope people will listen.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, even still, we will continue to hear John loud and clear.
That's what he wanted.
Yeah. Amazing story.